Moving on to step 4 of the pattern, you are going to create a flying geese block with the blue and the background fabrics. If you are just stumbling onto this video from somewhere else, this video is part of a series of 6 videos, so I have covered how to create a flying geese block in another video. I'll go ahead and link that up in the event that you either want a reminder of how to do that, or you want, like I said, you just kind of stumbled in. So the remainder of this section of the block is quite simple to assemble. So you're just going to sew these pieces together. And it's a stripe, just like a bee. So those 4 pieces together and press them, and then there are 2 rectangle 4.5 by 5.5 inch pieces that get sewn to each side of that block. For the top portion of the bee block, you have a square of fabric that you have snowballed the 2 corners, and then sewn 2 rectangles to the side. Last week we talked about how to cut and sew bias binding, which is actually not bias, but you're going to repeat that same technique to create a bias strip that you will use to sew to your long strip of fabric to create the antenna for the bee. When you do that, you're just going to place this piece down first, the second, and then just like last week, I just like to place it in place and kind of eyeball where I think they should go. You can make them at any angle you want. If you want them to come further out or narrower, just kind of give your bee a little bit of personality. So sew those to those sides, and then I will come back in and show you how to assemble the rest of the block. All right, at this point you are ready to assemble your block. I do have to note there's a, I don't know if I would consider it, there's an error on the pattern on the illustration. On this piece right here of the illustration, it makes it look like these are 2 separate pieces, not one large block, like right here. So this is actually one piece. I don't know how that got in there, but the cutting directions are correct. So just, this should be 1 square, or rectangle on each side, like shown right here in this section. So you're ready to assemble your block. When you get to this point, it's nice because the rest of the construction is pretty simple. So you are just have your sections of the block, and you are just going to lay them one on top of each other and sew them together. And that's all that's involved in sewing this part of the block together. Just these 5 strips of fabric. Make sure you watch your seams that they are scant 1/4 inch. Your block should measure very close to 12.5 by 12.5 when you're done. And then next week we will move on to making the flower blocks, which are, these blocks have a brand new technique. To me, it is a technique that, similar to a Dresden and similar to a English paper piecing, but it's all done by machine. So I look forward to that next week, and be sure to let me know in the comment sections if you have any questions about constructing the bee block.